folks. Welcome back to the Blessed Beyond Measure podcast. I'm your host, CEO The Source. Thank you once again for tuning in. Today, I have a special guest with me who I connected with actually just a couple of days ago. So we worked really quick in making this happen. And I certainly appreciate the efficiency, the communication, the level of communication. More than anything, I really appreciate the message my guest is going to be sharing with us today because I think it is extremely valuable for anyone to pick up on. We're going to be talking about a lot of very important subjects and speaking about our journeys and specifically my guest journey in kind of getting to the place where she's at right now. And the guest I'm speaking about today is her name is Sabrina Colon, and she runs the Instagram page, TikTok page, Facebook page, and soon to be website for Latinas on Wall Street. Welcome to the podcast, Sabrina. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you for being here. I want to just kind of get to know you a little bit, want the audience to get to know you a little bit. So please give us a little bit of information on who you are, what you stand for, and what you're currently working on.
Okay, so Latinas on Wall Street was born because many years ago, I was so hungry for the knowledge of how to become rich. And I would go to anybody that had any bit of wealth and ask them, like, how did you do this? How did you go about doing this? And my very first bit of knowledge that was given to me was a book, and it's the Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody gave me that book and said, here, start here, and so I did. I read that book, and then over the years I started, I became hungry, and I'm like, oh, they have books on how to get rich. We didn't have internet back then, so not like we do now, right? So I'm like, oh, they have books on this stuff. So then I went to the bookstore. I started buying every book I could find, how to Automatic Millionaire and Think and Grow Rich, and there's so many. So I started buying all these books, and then just getting all this knowledge. I started putting it into play, and I started investing in my 401k, and I started seeing the money grow. It was really hard to start, right? Because when you start with zero, it doesn't really compound quickly. Once that account reached 100,000, it was amazing how quickly it started working. They say make your money work for you. It was amazing how quickly the money started to turn over by itself. And I would wake up, in one day and be $5,000 richer, and it just kept going. I started sharing that knowledge with my coworkers and my family. And next thing I knew, I had my own supervisors coming to me with a notepad and a pen and saying, what do I do? How do I get started? Give me the steps. And then it just came to me like, you know what? I need to be teaching. Like, I have everybody around me coming to me, asking me how to do this. So I'm going to start teaching it. And so Latinas on Wall Street was born.
And that's an amazing name. That instantly caught my attention, caught my eye, because like I told you off air prior to recording, me coming from a Filipino background, we have very similar cultures, and we were kind of not privy to certain knowledge that was accessible to other classes of people and stuff like that. So I can totally relate. And it's such a powerful, impactful message. But the name itself, I think, is so powerful because it's speaking directly to a community of people that really, really need to soak in this game, soak in this knowledge.
Man, the thing about Latinas specifically and me is I was raised to serve my man, right? And that's what it is. Like, that's what they teach us growing up. You serve your man. That's your job in life. You serve the men in your life. You serve your sons. You serve your father. You serve your brothers. You serve all the men around you. And that's your job in life. And I didn't want to be that. I I tried that, and I talked to you about this before we started recording. Is I was in a domestic violence relationship for many years, and I depended on him. And when I left with nothing. And that's where my drive came. Is like, I never wanted to ever have to depend on anybody else for my well-being again.
Wow, that's an incredible reason why you do things, and I'm sure that's the motivation with what keeps you lit and keeps you just moving forward, regardless of the adversity, the challenges, the difficulties. And to see where you're at right now, speaking off air again, it's just the progress that you made and the person you're becoming in the process too, right? Isn't that such an amazing type of experience in itself?
Oh, it is amazing because nobody expects us to become anybody. Nobody expected me to become, a millionaire. Nobody ever expected that from me. So to be able to sit here proud, and that's why I named it Latinas on Wall Street, because I said, I want other, Latinas to, this is something they can wear and feel really good about. We're not just pretty or, servants. We're smart and we're capable. And I need that message to get out there.
100%. And I love how you paired it with Wall Street, because typically when you think of Wall Street, you're thinking of this, generally you're thinking of this white Caucasian businessman in a pinstripe suit, with a briefcase, on Wall Street and stuff like that. But the game has changed so much nowadays, especially with the the technology that we have at our disposal, right? We can literally do everything we want on this phone right here or on the computer, or in your case, you soaked up the knowledge through books the traditional way. Like I
Yeah.
love that, because the traditional way of like soaking in that knowledge, it's like it's not it's not as attractive to some, because it's like some people's attention kind of is not enough to withstand reading a whole entire book. Not me. I love reading books. I feel like it's a full body exercise for the mind, and you really
Yeah.
like are forced to be present with that like page right in front of you in order to absorb the information. So I'm just really, really astounded by you, and it's a breath of fresh air to really find another like-minded person in terms of like soaking up the knowledge from the reading and everything like that, and really just applying it into your own life. Now with the Latinas on Wall Street, Sabrina, are you so how else are you kind of like getting your message out?
So, what I'm doing right now, because literally this idea sprouted and became something on January 1st of this year. So we're just barely a month into it. So far we have our Instagram page at Latinas on Wall Street, and TikTok is the same at Latinas on Wall Street. We have Latinas on Wall Street on Facebook, the business page, and then we have a YouTube channel as well.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I'm curious, prior to you even starting it, like, was there ever any hesitancy on your part in terms of just being a little, I don't want to say fearful, because, that's just, I don't think that's what it was, but was there nervousness on your part that like, because there is like, even for me, from my perspective, prior to me starting my podcast, I was, conscious about like, oh man, what are people going to say, blah, blah, blah. Or how was that for you? I'm just curious about your personal process.
I was terrified. I was terrified, and there's a reason why I didn't start this sooner. The person that actually that inspired me to do this, his name, and I haven't even met him, but I'm gonna give him a little plug here. He calls himself the Wall Street Trapper.
Oh, I know him.
Yes. And so I watched him and I was like, oh, like this is dope. Somebody told me about him and I started watching. I said, gosh, he's not really giving me any information that I don't already know. And so that was cool. And then I started watching the EYL, Earn Your Leisure guys. Same thing. I'm like, they're giving great information, but it's like kind of like I already have all this information. I was like, I want to see, somebody that looks like me and I want to support them.
Mm.
And so I started looking for, any Latinas that are doing this, and I didn't see any. So why not me?
Wow, that's amazing. And I like that story a whole lot, because prior to us recording again, I told you I feel like the authenticity that you're going to provide in your message and in who you are, and sharing your story and sharing how you started and to where you are right now, sharing your progress. That's going to be so impactful for a group of people that really, really need to hear that message, right? And see somebody that is a reflection of them that they can see, and it's like speak that language, hear that voice, because it's going to connect in a way that it's not going to connect if Warren Buffett told it to him. You know what I'm saying? Because Warren Buffett is, he's given us that information, but he might be a little bit like harder to understand because he might be speaking in different terms. But when you're someone from the community is doing it, that's when it can really motivate, inspire, and move somebody to really start making these changes.
And that's what's important to me, is the fact that and like you said, this is really a man's game, or it's always been known as a man's game. I want to go to the domestic violence shelters and talk to those women and tell them how I did it. I want to go to the jails and reach the people that are going to come out and start a new life. I want to talk to them. I want to talk to the maids at the hotels. Like, I want to reach these people that I know can use this and value it, but they may not accept it the same way, through Wall Street Trapper or Warren Buffett, or that. So that's why I'm here.
That's amazing. And prior to, you know, getting you on this podcast, I did a little research on my end. I definitely soaked up a lot of wisdom in some of your posts and stuff like that. And there was one in particular that actually sparked a really great it was something I've been thinking about for a long time, but to hear it on your post, I think it really just kind of made me put it in my on my priority list. And it was a post talking about passive income because I've always just been familiar with the concept of it. I understood the concept of it. I just never really got the wheels in motion and applied it in my life. And one specific example you gave, which I love and I've been thinking about for a long time, and I think I'm going to get going on this at some point this year, is looking into investing into what do you call those vending machines.
Yes.
It's just like
Yes.
making money while you sleep. It's like a very low risk, high reward type of thing. And it can really fund itself if you kind of just set up a process. Talk to me about other ways that we can kind of do small little actions right now.
Yeah, so small actions. The stock market is one of my it's so dear to my heart because I I plan on making millions in the stock market. I plan on um gosh, okay, so let's say Ford stock is, I don't know what it is exactly today, but I know it's around $20 a share. Start there. You know, Open an E-Trade account. You can do that. It's free. And buy one stock at a time. I started my stock account with $100. I had $100 and I started with that. And, now my account is, well over $250,000. And, but $100, you start there and you build it. And like I said, getting to that first 100,000 is, they say your first million is the hardest, right? Because after you hit that $1 million, like it's like a well-oiled machine by that point. That first 100,000 is the same kind of thing. It's really hard to kind of build it to that. But once you get there, that income is going to be passive. But
Mm-hmm.
it's going to start small. So that $20, Ford just came out with the electric vehicle. And I'm not giving any advice on which stocks to buy, but I'm just saying, they just came out with electric vehicles. And so, I anticipate that it's probably going to go up. There's no guarantees, but start with that. There's a bunch of stocks that are in that range. Apple, I think, is, I don't know, about 170 right now per share. That's super solid. So I would start there. Also, good credit. You can start a business, any kind of, I have a girlfriend that takes people's old clothes. I just drop some off to her and she sells them online and then she splits the money with you.
Wow.
There's a million different ways to just, start a t-shirt business. I bought these from my girlfriend. Um, I called her, I'm like, can you print up, some of these shirts for me? And so she does that on the side. Like, there's so many different ways that you can do it, and you can still keep your job. Your job is your vehicle to financial freedom. You start with that, but you don't have to be stuck there for the rest of your life.
I think that's so powerful. And, I think oftentimes what hinders us from doing that is people don't have the foresight, or they don't allow themselves the foresight. And they think that it may not happen because it's so far fetched. It seems so far away, but I like that approach that you have of starting where you're at and just building it brick by brick, because there's really no other way. Like there's no like just magical unless you win the lottery or something like that. But it's
Right.
that is super far-fetched. The odds of that actually happening are, I think, a lot crazier than actually doing it yourself. Like you actually have a higher percentage and a higher opportunity and chance to be able to build it on your own versus actually believing you're going to win the lottery or something like that. And for me, like I'm curious with when you first started and where you're at right now, what was your approach to begin with? Was it more of a investing strategy or was it more of a day trading type of strategy?
When I first started, it was definitely a long term investing strategy, which worked very well for me. And I think right now is an amazing time to get in because the market just took like a 10% drop or somewhere in that range. So we just hit a dip. But definitely, I started with the long term because it's safer. Day trading, if you don't know what you're doing, and I'm not even a day trader still, but if you don't know what you're doing, it's a quick way to lose your money. But when you invest, and which is long term, then it doesn't matter. The stocks will go up and down, but historically over time, you will still gain about a 7% gain on your money over time. So it outperforms the banks. The CDs are not even paying 1% right now.
Wow. Yeah, I appreciate that message because I've had so many conversations with people. Everybody has their own style and approach. There's some people that are of the mindset that like they just want it quick. But I think when you kind of have that approach, you kind of disrespect the process a little bit. You take more risks and sometimes it pays off. Yeah, but I think it also can burn you in the end if you're not being concrete in what you're doing. You're not making wise, sound investments, and you're also not exercising that patience, right? Like I feel like that's an important muscle that needs to be kind of flexed when you're doing this. You have to know, okay, if I'm going to start with this 100, I got to be patient. Like you got to understand like that 100, you got to let it do what it does, right? You got to let it kind of compound, you know,
Yeah.
like I understand too that when you're dealing with investments, not all of that is liquid right away. Like you're not going to be able to liquidate that right away, right? So it's just you have to understand like that you had to put that money aside, almost like you don't even have that money. It's let it bubble up, let it do what it's doing.
Right. And the thing about the long term investments is it's going to give you the opportunity because you're going to watch your money. You're gonna watch that stock market. Once you put your first $100 in there, you're gonna be watching that stock market like a hawk because you're gonna want to see
Facts.
what happens every day, and you're gonna learn the ups and downs of the stock market over time. So once I started doing that, somebody turned me on to options trading.
Mm.
And so you'll see me post my gains online. Yesterday I made $1,800, and last Friday I made $1,500, and that's from a $10,000 investment, and it's turning over like fast. Today was $500 to where now my investments are outperforming my job. I'm making more than the CTO at my job. So I'm going to probably be leaving there by the end of the year, but because I still have that training wheel on. I'm kind of just, I have one training wheel on. I'm not really ready to let go, but yeah, somebody turned me on to options trading, and I would not be able to do it if I had not watched the stock market, for a long time so that I could understand the way the market goes up and down because you will freak out if,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because
Pull out
options
all
trading.
your hair.
Yeah. It's very risky if you don't know what you're doing.
Man, I understand. Dabble a little bit into it, not as much as I feel like I should because whatever reason, I'm not going to make any reasons, but I'm going to invest more time and energy into it, especially after this conversation. It's very motivating. It's very inspirational because, it's just like, it's all possible. What's possible for someone else becomes possible for you too. If you allow yourself that possibility and you kind of create a plan, you set goals, you execute, and you stay disciplined and patient to just get yourself to that place, right? And I think you're a testament to that. You're an example of that, and I think you're going to help a lot of people.
Oh, I'm so excited. I cannot wait to just really get out there and like really start giving people the meat of this. And I'm excited to see people like come back to me in a few years and say, look what I did. I can't wait for those results to start happening and lives to start changing.
That's awesome. And we were talking earlier too. It's just like when you're doing what you're doing and you have that enthusiasm and that why, and it's strong enough, and it's what's motivating you, it's like it's all going to come together in grand fashion, and the energy you put out is going to get rewarded one way or another. The fulfillment I find for me when I'm doing the work that I'm doing is actually in helping and inspiring others. Like I don't even need much else other than that, to be honest with you. That fuels me to keep going, and I know that it's just going to keep getting better throughout as I develop myself and share the message. And I feel like it's going to be the same thing for you as you continue to ascend in your journey and share that information, give off these good vibes. It's only going to produce more and more fruit for you.
And that's the thing is, and I said, I'm not selling anything. I'm not trying to, I'm not a salesperson at all. I genuinely want to see people win. I want everybody in my circle to enjoy what I'm enjoying. I want them to have the same freedom I have so we can go to Paris together. Nobody wants to be rich by themselves. That's really boring and lonely. Like you want everybody to come with you. So I'm hoping for that, and to give that to other people because I want to leave a legacy here. I don't want to just be rich. I want people to talk about me when I'm gone in a good way.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Like, your name is going to mean something, right? Before you leave this, or you want to leave this world a better place than you found it. I love that
Yes.
motivation. And you mentioned a couple books that you've read. Think and Grow Rich. That's one of my all-time classics. It's a for those that haven't read the book, and I'm sure you can pretty much agree to this, even though you're interested in it just as I am, it is a dry read because it was written in the early 1900s, and
Yeah, that was a tough one. Yeah.
it's certainly a tough one. And actually, I listened to a lot of audiobooks by Napoleon Hill, and it's very much in that early 19th century language, but there's so much knowledge. And what's crazy to me, not necessarily crazy, but what's surprising to me, I guess, is that it's also simple. It starts with the mindset, right? How would you kind of like, to anyone listening right now, how would you kind of tell somebody or help somebody develop that type of mindset in order, to believe that it's possible for them?
Um, you know, what I'm going to say is you have to you have to walk a path that's already been paved. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Talk to people that are doing it, people that have done it. Listen to them. These people are there and they're telling you. I'm telling you, they told me. Um, the mindset, somebody called me the other day and they said, her husband makes $9,000 every 2 weeks. They're flying out to Vegas and buying, tickets to the Raiders game and, $200 bottles of Hennessy. But she's like, we don't know what to do with our money. Well, that's the mindset that I want to change. You don't work at your job and go spend your money. You work at your job, you use that money to fund your assets. And then what you make from that, you use to go buy your Raiders tickets and your $200 bottles of Hennessy. But you cannot afford that if your assets are not doing it for you. Your job should be funding your assets. So that's the mindset that it has to be. It's not even a want. Like we have to instill that in our kids, stop buying Jordan. You have Jordans, you're going shopping for, these handbags but you're buying it with the money that you make at your job. That's how these, athletes go broke. They're in the NFL, they make millions of dollars and 5 years later, 65% of them go broke within 5 years of leaving because they're not investing their money. And you don't have to have millions of dollars. You can, you don't like, and I said it in my Instagram, you don't build a house. You don't just take the house and place it on the foundation. It's one brick at a time. And you just start with your $100. There's your brick. Start with that and keep adding your bricks. And eventually you will have a home. but you have to start.
Yeah, 100%. And those numbers that you just dropped are staggering in terms of, the athletes, how they go broke, 65% of them. And wow, when you said that to me, I was like, wow, that is a huge number. That's over half. And I'm like, wow, why is that? And I'm trying to get to the root of why that is. And I think it's important to understand that, but I think it's more important to show people like there is a different way. I think for so long, our society, especially in our cultures, right? We in today's day and age, we want to show like we got it rather than actually have it. You know what I'm saying? And that's a big
Right.
problem.
Absolutely. And you can have it, and you will have it, but you have to retrain your mind of how to get it. And you can absolutely have all of those things if you just, everybody's missing that middleman. You want to go straight for the, you want to go straight for the Louis Vuitton store when you should be purchasing, your Apple stock and your Tesla and then when those grow now, today, if I'm making $2,000 today, then, I could afford to go and buy $1,000 handbag. I made $2,000 today,
Mm-hmm.
from my assets. I didn't even have to work for it. Like, I stopped trading my time for money.
Mm-hmm.
We need to stop trading our time for money. $30 an hour versus, waking up and you're $2,000 richer each day. It's really easy to choose the latter. And when you can see it and you know how it works, it's not that hard to make that decision every day.
I hear you. I hear you. Now, so I'm curious. I want to give you this space right now to speak to someone. Say, I want to put this person out there for you. It's a person that literally is just getting started, doesn't know which apps to use, doesn't know how to get started in investing. What's the first thing you tell that person?
Open an E-Trade account or TD Ameritrade, or I'm not a fan of the Robinhood platform, but open a stock account, an investment account. So I have E-Trade. I love E-Trade. It's really easy for me to use, but open that up. Open that up, connect your checking account to it. And every time you get paid, put money into it. I don't care if you smoke cigarettes and you're paying $10 a day for cigarettes, then you can afford to put $10 a day into that account.
Mm.
You know what I mean? If you're smoking weed and you're spending, 10, $20 and you're having it delivered to you can afford to put a small amount into that account. So that's where I would start. Open that account and just start putting a few dollars into it. Every time you get paid, I personally put, gosh, I put a lot into I put a lot into mine. My retirement account, I put like $800 every other paycheck, which, okay, so let me back up. If you're not going to do the E-Trade account, start with your 401k. Max that out. I would max that out first. The book Automatic Millionaire by David Bach, that's where I learned that from. So I started putting into that because I felt like no matter how many businesses I start, no matter what I do, if I keep putting this money in there, I'm going to retire a millionaire. So no matter if every business fails, I'll still retire a millionaire from this account. So that's where I would start. Don't say, oh, I don't have enough money to take out of my account to put in there. Because when you come up short on your paycheck, you'll find a way to make up the difference. Whether you go get a second job, you start doing DoorDash, figure that shit out. But pay yourself first. And that's, you pretty much hear that amongst all the millionaire guru investors. Pay yourself first. And that's how you do it. You can usually put the money in tax free in those accounts. And sometimes your job will even match you. So you should be maxing that out. That's where I would start.
Gotcha. Right on for that. I appreciate that. And I'm sure anybody that is just getting started, that is going to be some valuable information for them to just get started. And nowadays, again, with our phones, with everything that we have access to, it's not like you need to actually go into an office and get a portfolio set up. You can literally do that on your phone. There's almost no excuse nowadays, you know what I mean, to kind of get your finances in order. And I'm guilty of it. I'm still working on that aspect of my life, and I'm making little by little progress here and there. But I do intend to spend more energy, spend more time, and just organizing everything, getting everything set. Like you said, just creating passive income, just kind of exploring different ways and ideas that I'm capable of doing right now. And I think you got to start where you are, right? You have to understand we all start somewhere, and you can't look at somebody's end game and think it's your own, right? You have to kind of understand, like, yo, you are where you are. Start there. Don't worry too much about what this person's doing or that person's doing. Focus on where you're at right now, what you're doing, and then move forward and just stay on your path because there's no
There was a
traffic there.
guy that I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, you good? Go ahead. Go ahead.
There was a guy that I used to be a station agent for Bart, and there was a guy that would come out there and he would go to the dollar store and buy those rain hoodies from the dollar store and then go out to the Raiders games or whatever game was, and he would sell them for like $10 a piece. Like,
Wow.
get out there and hustle. You can make it happen, you know. And he would go there like, man, I made $1,000 today. Who would think, right? We look at those guys like, look at these guys out here, like, you know, they must be really, you know, poor to be out here doing that, or they must be broke as hell to be out here trying to sell these.
Wow.
Man, and $1,000 in one day.
Wow.
You know, hustle, get out there. You can make it. You could do it.
Like I think a lot of times, and I'm guilty of it too, for a long time in my life, I would, you know, give my energy to my excuses more than actually making progress and making a change. I would blame other things. I would be like, oh, I can't do this. Like, you gotta retrain this mind, because it's all gotta start here first. Once you get it going within your mind, you can really make that happen. The action follows that. You know what I'm saying? And you talking about that example right there, I talk about this all the time with the hot dog vendors out there at the games, like with those bacon wrap hot dogs. My God, the overhead on that got to be little to nothing. It's just like, okay, those them hot dogs with the bacon and the onions and all that stuff, like that's not even that much to pay for. You go to Costco and you pay for a pack of cheap hot dogs, some buns and all that stuff, and you just make that. And it's just like they're charging at the I work over at the Chase Center with the Golden State Warriors, and they're out there all the time, and it always attracts you with the smell. But they're charging up to $10 for a small ass little hot dog, and they're good. But I'm just saying, like, you know, for damn sure, if you were to go buy a pack of hot dogs at the store, it ain't gonna be $10. And they selling them things, they're flipping them things, they're hustling, and that's just investing in themselves, finding a way, like you said, to hustle. And I think it's all within our like capabilities. We just some of us, and like I said, I'm guilty of it too, would just kind of put that energy more towards our excuses. And I think when you realize, like, yo, enough is enough. I want better for myself. I'm going to go out and demand better for myself and get better for myself. That's when the change can really happen.
Yeah, and stop being too proud to get out there. You're not better than the guy that's selling hot dogs. You're not better than the guy that's out there.
Hell no.
When I sold my first house, I've been doing real estate for 22 years. I'm a licensed real estate broker. And when I sold my first house, I didn't even have a car. I didn't have a car. I was borrowing a car from my parents. And it was an old beat up Nissan Sentra. And every time I took my client to a house, we would have to pop the hood, tap the starter with a hammer, and then I'd tell her to try it. And she would try it. And then we would go to the next house. And I even ran out of gas one time with her. And I was like, oh my God, like, just fire me. And she's like, we're not going to fire you, you know. And so I sold my first house to her, and she referred her sister to me. And then they referred their friend. And I sold 3 houses in 1 month. I made $27,000 when I was driving a car that nobody probably would drive or would be too embarrassed to take their clients around. I just did it. And they saw the hustle and they believed in me. And you know, this is what we have to do. You're not too good to get out there. Like, humble yourselves. Humble yourselves. That's like the biggest message I could give anybody. Humble
Wow.
yourself.
Wow. That was impactful. I gotta say, because that hit me very much. And I feel like when you're living in your truth the way you're doing, and you're doing things, and you're living as an example of it, that is the best way to inspire, motivate, and teach people to do it, because you're not only talking about it, you're actually like putting your money where your mouth is. You're like putting the pedal to the metal, and you work, and you're making it happen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's where it's going to create the biggest change. You're going to see the most progress, and you're going to see people really like be attracted to that. I feel like that's so dope.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm proud of my story, because I started from absolutely nothing, nothing, but I had that drive like I said, I humbled myself. I'm not too good to get, if I lost my job today and I lost everything, I'll go out there and work at In-N-Out Burger. I'll go be a Starbucks barista. Like I'll go and do whatever it takes to rebuild, like, because that's who I am. Like, I'm a hustler and I'm not better than anybody else. We are all the same. We're all the same.
Straight up. I hear you loud and clear. And I think it's plenty of us like get in our heads too much about that shit. And I'm the same way. Like, if need be, I'm gonna get my ass out there and do something. I'm gonna find a way, I'm gonna make a way. I have before and I will again if I have to. I'm just now I have a clear understanding of what I want to do, which is important, right? You got to know what you want to do, and then you can kind
Mm.
of create the plan to kind of do that and get the wheels in motion. But I think what you're saying is so impactful. Like, I think that's part of the mindset, right? Of like making that change and elevating yourself to a better place. Because if you're someone that's not happy with your current circumstances or what you're doing, who's like change that. You have the ability and the power within you to do that. It takes small, simple action steps to really build that momentum. And then with that momentum, it starts to snowball. That snowball effect really starts to take into place, and it can become a whole entire avalanche. And as we all know, avalanches are super powerful. And it's incredible when you really just get going. You get started. That momentum really takes you to new levels, new places, and it's really incredible to hear your story.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Now, Sabrina, this has been a very enlightening conversation. I seriously really appreciate you coming on here. And, we've talked about a lot of really important topics. Before we kind of wrap things up, I want to kind of just give you the space and ask if there's anything else that, since if we haven't touched on anything that you really had the intent on talking about before we get out of here. Is there anything that you kind of want to leave us with?
Like I said, I just want to leave people with the fact that, you can start from absolutely zero. That's where I started. Just get the hustler mentality, humble yourself. I don't care how many degrees you have. If you can't find a job, then go to Starbucks. Like, it doesn't matter. Just humble yourself and build from the ground up, and then you can be here and follow my page. Like, I'm giving it away for free. I'm not selling anything. I have nothing to sell. I have nothing to gain by selling anybody anything. This, I'm giving it away because I genuinely want to see people win, and I want to help our community to uplift. So then we can stop like hating on each other and just live in abundance.
Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Oh my gosh. That part right there, I'm gonna underscore that 3 times and hit it with 5 exclamation points because it's a message that needs to be heard loud and clear, especially in our communities. We got to stop hating, change that hate, turn that back into love. You know what I'm saying? And really let that fuel you and motivate you and inspire you. And I really appreciate your message and what you're doing. And my advice to you is just to keep going, keep growing, and just like keep learning, keep sharing, and just keep being vibrant because it's gonna keep rewarding you. That's just the way it goes. It's just the natural laws of the universe. And wow, this was a really incredible conversation. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Like, you have no idea. It means so much to me that you even allowed me to enter your space. So thank you.
My pleasure. It was a pleasure on my end. And so before we wrap things up, I want you to let folks know how they can reach you. We talked about it through various points in the podcast, but let's wrap it up by kind of you letting folks know how they can get in contact with you.
Okay, so on Instagram and TikTok, it's at Latinas on Wall Street. And then we have a YouTube channel, which is Latinas on Wall Street as well. And then Facebook, our business page is Latinas on Wall Street.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
wait, and then we still have the website, www.latinasonwallstreet.com.
Sweet, sweet. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing all that progress that you come up with, all that energy you're gonna put behind that brand, and more than anything, I'm looking forward to the impact you're gonna make with so many people within the community, within whoever catches that energy. It's just gonna be good stuff for them. And yeah, thank you again for being here, Sabrina. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. And to all my folks out there in the Blessed Beyond Measure family, thank you for supporting the podcast. Truly appreciate y'all. As we say at at the end of each episode, keep going and keep growing. Stay blessed, y'all. Peace.